Remington George Kell Motor Company, Highway 367 north in Newport. What's happening, my friend?
Well, boy, there's a lot going on right now. And you can see, looking up down the highway right here, boy, people are moving around. They're going to the lake. They're going to go play for a weekend. Hope everybody's safe. And we want to say thank you to all of our veterans for Memorial Day who made what you and I do possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you, veterans, for the great price. Some gave some and some gave all.
That's right.
And to my dad and all those old veterans out there, thank you for what you did.
Yeah, we filmed on Saturday of the Memorial weekend, and beautiful, gorgeous day. Temperature, we filmed at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's probably 75, 80 degrees. Beautiful day, beautiful weekend, but You're right. Those folks made, a lot of those folks made the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, they did, and we want to thank them for it. Back to the car business, boy, it's an exciting time. If you look at our lot right now, we've got about 200 new on the lot, about 130 used. And we are selling a bunch of these new 14 trucks. And these 15 Tahoes and Yukons are moving. It's just hard to get them, David. It's just hard to get them.
Right.
They're selling real well. Don't have a lot of rebates on them yet, and it'll get a bit better down the road. But I want to invite everybody to come by and test drive these new 14 and 15s. Man, they're incredible. Right now, depending on the vehicle that you can get, I've got one that I've got sold, a $4,700 rebate.
Right.
You know, finance a car, finance a nice truck, about $368 a month.
Right.
You know,
right.
Pay very little interest over the life of the loan. Come on down here and take a look. I tell you what, Kevin Young was working on a deal the other day to put on Facebook, just looking at leases. We don't do a lot of leases.
Sure.
But leases have gotten kind of popular, and he worked out a deal where you can get specific vehicles like a two-wheel drive 2014 crew cab truck. With the rebates we've got on some of these specific trucks right here, leasing the truck with taxes and everything, less than $400 a month on a 14 crew cab pickup truck.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So I'm not a big advocate of leases, but if you like to trade often and you don't put a lot of miles on a car, come down here and let us work a lease with you. If it works for you, that's 10,000 miles a year. If you're a big mileage driver, that's not for you. But if you're a low mileage driver who likes to trade often and you're never upside down because you don't own it.
You're absolutely right.
You drive it for 3 years, 36 months, 24, whatever you want to do. You turn it back in and get something else.
Yes, sir.
So take a look at that. Think about a lease, and we can do it on any vehicle on the lot that's new. So come on in at George Kell's, take a look. I just visited with a customer, and I'm probably not going to sell her. I'm probably not going to sell this lady. There's somebody, another dealer in Missouri that's probably going to beat us on a deal. How they're doing it, I don't know. When she left, she said, "I appreciate your time." And I said, "When you get ready to service that vehicle, you bring it to George Kell Motors. You're not going to go 180 miles to service your car.
Right, absolutely.
You bring it to George Kell Motors, and we'll treat you like a queen that you are. You bring that General Motors vehicle in, that Yukon, and we'll treat you right." You know, we're not going to win every deal. No dealer's going to win them all, but we want your service business, and regardless of where you buy it, you bring it in here, and we'll treat you like you bought it here.
Well, there's no doubt you guys do that, and John, a lot of times, and not in this particular instance, but a lot of times people get that deal, it seems like it's too good to be true, and a lot of times when you actually get there for the actual, it's maybe too good to be true.
Got a friend?
I don't do that here.
Well, we don't play those funny games. The thing about that, you get up there and they'll say, "You've got to buy this warranty at this price. You've got to finance that car at this interest rate for this amount of time. You've got to do this, you've got to do that, our dealer fees are this, that." I mean, we all pay the same for the cars, and we're not going on purpose lose a lot of money. Another one of our friends who trades here all the time got a deal up around St. Louis, and then they was going to beat us to death.
Sure, sure.
Well, they lowballed his trade $4,000.
Right.
Then they said, "You got to buy this warranty, and you've got to finance at this interest rate for this amount." So when it's all said and done, we were about $2,000 cheaper.
That's right.
Don't fall
and
into
that happens.
Sometimes there's certain contests going on, and the dealer's trying to sell 3 or 4 more to make a big, and sometimes they beat us.
Absolutely.
And that happens. Sometimes we beat them.
Absolutely.
The bottom line is, if you're around here, you're not going to go to St. Charles, Missouri to get your car serviced. You're not going to call them when you're stuck on a gravel road at Swifton.
That's
and
right.
you need somebody to come get you. You're going to call us.
I'm going to call John
and we're going
G.
to come get you.
That's right.
Whether you're going to call somebody at Kell, and we're going to take care of you.
Sir.
And if it's a few $100s worth, I think all that's worth it. But anyway, fun and games in the car business. We're here. We got a lot full of them. We want you to come test drive them. By the way, George Kell Motors for 2013 was one of the few excellent dealers in the country. We got an award of excellence for outstanding sales and service after the sale. And there's a big marble thing in there. I was going to carry it out here, but I'm not strong enough to carry it. Maybe you and I both could. But it's sitting in Dean's office, and it's Mark of Excellence is what it's called, and it's handed out and it's based on feedback from customers who send in the, you know, how were you treated, how did you like your deal, how are they treating you after the service, and all that kind of stuff. So we're real proud of that. Don't get many of those up and down the road. So we earned it because of customers who do business with us and allow us the opportunity to sell them cars and then service after they buy one.
John G., George Kell Motor Company, the lead sponsor on Remember When, and it's a great series. We've got Coach Bill Osier coming up, and it's just, boy, this is a great series.
Isn't it fun? I mean, and there are things, and I was fortunate enough to be chosen to do it and talk about some of the things that I remember. And then you got Coach Osier, who's got a great memory and goes back and, you know, on the state championship team in '65, and then you're gonna have Joe Miles. Joe Miles remembers everything from the minute he was born.
Yes, he does.
He remembers everything.
Yes, sir.
I mean, he remembers everybody's house, who they lived there, how long they lived there, what they had in the yard, the dog's name.
Yes.
He's incredible.
He is that.
And he's one of my dear, dear friends, and I love him like a brother because he is my fraternity brother. But you got great people on here. You know, my dad and Dr. Wright, Marvin Thaxton, John Miner, all these guys who are legendary in our minds. And then hopefully some of these kids that are younger than us see us because we're kind of like
we're getting there, my friend.
We're getting there.
Yes, sir.
And it's going to be fun. It's a great deal. Hope everybody's watching it and enjoying it. And we want you to come to George Kell Motors to experience what we do here. We'll take great care of you, and we want your business. Whatever you're driving, you got to have it serviced, tires, wheels, accessories. We're the people that can fix you up. Come see us.
John G., George Kell Motor Company, and as always, a pleasure to see you, my friend.
God bless America. Thank you, veterans.
Jackson's Funeral Home and the Jackson family have been serving our friends and neighbors in Jackson County during some of the most difficult times of their lives for nearly 60 years. As the third generation of this family to own and operate Jackson's Funeral Homes, Jan, Rhett, and Jerry consider it the highest honor to be chosen to care for you and your family during times of need. We believe the highest standard of care is achieved when people are given the tools needed to make the most informed decision for the benefit of their family. For us, there's no greater honor than to care for our friends and our neighbors in their time of need. The Jackson's Funeral Homes, the 1900 block of Malcolm Avenue in Newport, phone number 870-523-5822.
I'm Bud Black, and welcome to Remember When here on Cable15TV.com and Cable15 TV. And of course, we have a lot of programming that we do here, and we're pleased to have it for you on Facebook and on our website and on YouTube. And we're just doing lots of good things with the programming, and hope that you are enjoying it. And we appreciate your comments. Coach Bill Osier, everybody recognizes Coach Osier. I don't even have to introduce him. His many, many long years of coaching here in Northeast Arkansas and being a great player, and we couldn't think of anybody who would be more fun to talk to than Coach Bill Osier, because he grew up here just like me. And if anybody knows a bunch about Newport and Jackson County, it's Bill Osier, because also, even in his old age, you like that? Even in his old age, he's still got a sharp, sharp memory. And Bill and I always, when we get together, sit down and talk about old times and things that a lot of people would forget, but for some reason that sports stuff just stays ingrained right up there. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, buddy, and
Good.
it's good to see that you're doing well also.
Recovering very, very well indeed. You know, feeling the best I felt in a year, and so it just old long haul, those illnesses and conditions. But anyway, it's the Lord's been good to me, and I can't complain. You know.
And I tell you what, I miss those broadcasts of yours.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
There's been a lot of moments on the couch at home that I've enjoyed some good ball games.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, we were very fortunate, and I was very fortunate to be able to do that for as many years as I did. And then, you know, old legs got bad and lost a foot, and it became a little tough to walk up and down those stairs at the stadiums or the, you know, basketball or football. And I said, no, I hate to have to give all this up, but you know, it just looks like that's what it's going to be. But anyway, we're doing other things and having a good time with it. And I want to just sit down and talk. And first thing I ever ask anybody is, where and when were you born?
I was born in 1947, May 10th, in Augusta, Arkansas.
Okay.
And my family lived right on the Woodruff-Jackson County line at Overcup. And we...
John Minor country.
John Minor country. I remember John Minor when he was a high school guy and would come there on the farm. And we would catch the school bus and get off the school bus at Mr. Shorty Haney's store in Overcup. And sometimes he'd be out there, and I remember seeing him at that time. But after that, we moved to Tupelo. We needed a bigger house to take care of my grandmother, who wasn't doing well at the time. And we lived at Tupelo for 2 years. Matter of fact, I went to McCrory School for 4 years.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I went through the 4th grade at McCrory because we lived on the county line, and you could go either way. We owned property in each county. And then we moved to Tupelo, and we were in the Newport district at that time. And we lived there in Tupelo for 2 years, and our house burned. We lived right across the street from the Tupelo school. And our house burned, and my dad at the time was working at Revere, and that's what brought us to Diaz, and from Diaz to Newport. And we moved here when I was in the 6th grade.
That was a good move.
A good move. It really was.
It, like I say, you know, things like where you live, it certainly changed your life, but it changed not only your life, but in such a positive way, and you became such a recognizable person and great basketball player and a wonderful educator that the kids absolutely love. And, you know, we're very, very proud of the work that you have done down through the years. Let's talk a little bit about growing up. You get here, there's that old frog. You get here and, you know, develop some friendships, and you're in the 6th grade, you know. Tell me about what you like to do. When did you pick up a basketball?
Okay. I picked up, this is kind of odd, and it sounds like one of these old stories that your grandpa talked about walking a mile to catch the school bus.
Well, go ahead, Grandpa.
My first experience, I used to watch on television some of those professional basketball games. The Rochester Royals and
yes, sir.
St. Louis Hawks.
Yo, the Bob
Pettit,
Cliff
and
Hagan,
guys like that. Easy Ed McCauley,
yeah,
and all those, and I kind of liked it. So we used to get Quaker Oats in the bottle, the box that was round, cylindrical.
I remember.
I tacked that to the side of the house and got me one of those rubber softballs that you could get at the 5 and 10, and I'd shoot a little basketball there. And then when we got to Newport, I've always thought that this was why I developed a pretty good shot from the corner. We lived at Diaz, that is. It
was a deadly shot from the corner.
I got my first basketball goal in basketball when I was in 7th grade or late 6th grade, I guess it was. I didn't have a backboard. So I set up, I think it was a 2x8 board about this wide, and I tacked the goal, nailed it to that, and put it in the ground, and I shot without a backboard. So evidently that's why I could, my better
Swish
shot
the
was
net.
from the corner. Yeah, I didn't bank any in. And then I would play with guys in the neighborhood there. And That's when I got it. Now, the only thing about basketball, when I got to junior high school, I liked football better right off. I was a starting halfback on the Newport Rinky Dinks, and I love football. But
that's the 7th grade team.
7th grade team, yes. They were called the Rinky Dinks, and when you got to the Rinky Dinks, you had arrived at Newport.
You so bet you were part of it.
That was good, and we had, back then you had those old gym shorts that came way up, and I was very shy, and I was hesitant to play basketball because I didn't want to wear shorts. I was just really shy. So what I did, I would take my socks and pull them way up. I got me a pair of knee pads, and I would put those knee pads over my knees and pull my shorts down low.
Covered it all up. Mr. Modesty.
And then after a year or so, I got out of that. And then Coach Don Heineman was a 7th grade coach back then, and he did a wonderful job of teaching fundamentals.
Don had several years here, yeah.
He did a wonderful job of teaching fundamentals. I played it in the 8th grade, then the 9th grade. Probably the most important thing was when I met Paul Massey. And the story behind meeting Paul, Miss Esther Hale, his grandmother, and my sister Janice Osier worked for Mr. Earl Van Hook at Van Atkins. She kind of took my sister under her wing. She started working there at 16. And Miss Hale and her got to be good friends, and she said she had a grandson about my age that has just moved in from, is either West Memphis or New Albany, Mississippi.
Okay.
And they'd like for us to meet each other. The rest is history.
Yep.
And Paul became, as my mother said, Paul became her other son. We were together so much.
My greatest memory of Paul Massey, and there's so many, at Greene County Tech. We played on the road at Tech, and we had the lead barely, and him dribbling out the clock. Do you remember that?
I certainly do. It's the first time we'd ever beaten Greene County Tech.
And he was all over the floor dribbling that ball. He looked like Marcus Haynes,
He was.
And it just, I'll never forget that. And Greene County Tech was a heck of a basketball team.
Yeah, we had never beaten Tech, and to beat them on their home court for the first time we'd ever beaten them. And I remember Paul hit the last free throw after he was dribbling out the clock. They fouled him,
right.
And he kissed the ball before he shot it. I don't know if nowadays that would be calling hot dogging or what, but Paul was he was really a competitor and a dear friend.
What you, as a kid, what'd you like to do, or on up into the young teenage years, just besides shoot hoops at the Quaker Oats box?
Well, I didn't like to hunt. I didn't like to fish.
Okay, so you weren't an outdoorsman.
I wasn't really an outdoorsman. I just loved sports.
Mm-hmm.
I would play baseball in baseball season, football in football season, and basketball. I started liking it, and I just loved all kinds of sports growing up. Of course, living out in the country, you did the things that kids did. You had the stick horses, and you had your friends out there that played in the cotton trailers, get on the sideboards of the cotton trailers and jump down in them and tunnel through that cotton that had been picked in the trailers. And you had to use your imagination. I remember my first experience at working on my place kicking was pet milk cans. I would tee those up and try to kick them over a limb in the yard, The way I developed as
necessity is the mother of invention, is it not?
To catch fly balls, I would throw the ball as high as I could in the air and then get under it and catch it. I really liked baseball when I moved to Newport. I know in Tupelo there weren't many kids my age, and I played baseball with the older kids, Lon Simmons, the Gardner boys, the Dudleys, McDonald's, Butch and E.G. McDonald.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Wood was living there at the time, and we had just had a lot of fun getting out and playing, and I had no choice but to play with the older guys, and I think that maybe helped me a little bit. But when I got to Newport, I started meeting kids when I played for Post 47, Little League team.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, as you remember, the Little League was run in the mornings. They didn't have leagues like,
Right.
and the American Legion
Played
baseball
at
players,
8:30 and 10 o'clock.
right, they coached those teams.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have a field on the main field, and I believe they had one in each corner, didn't they, of the outfield?
Yes, it's had a lot of activity
Had a lot
going
of activity,
on.
and
Then we played the Pony League at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Exactly.
Pony League was hot.
It was.
Because it's a hot part of the day, you know, in the summertime. You had Little League early, and then the Pony League at
Yes.
midday, and the Legion played at night most of the time, except the weekends.
And I loved to watch those Legion games every Wednesday and Sunday.
Yes, yeah.
Wednesday afternoon
Yeah,
was the
and
businessman special.
Yeah, because town shut down on Wednesday afternoon. Everybody shut down, took half a day off.
Yeah. And
You know, you could go fishing or go to the ball game.
Right.
You know, you go over to the ball game, it'd be 1,500, 1,800 people at a baseball game.
it would. It was really.
I've seen as many as 5,000 there at the state tournament. You
Yes.
know, it just wow.
And I loved to do that, and got interested in the baseball. I just slowly started to get interested in basketball. You know, I could punt and I could throw passes and I could deep snap, and I liked, you know, football, and I enjoyed coaching football. You know, working with the junior high, and my dad was a football player at Newport, Jack Osier, and he played ball with Mr. Mullins, Mr. Tom Collier, Mr. Man Schaffner. They played football together, and I know he always wanted me to be a football player. But he taught me something that's helped me with my kids and hopefully with my grandkids. He didn't pressure me into staying with football. He knew I loved basketball, even though I probably wasn't as good a basketball player as I was a football player.
And you know, in junior high, you and Stan had so many great teams, and we had such a wonderful run there of, I mean, just consistency. And just you know, win. It was fabulous.
I'd have never made it through coaching at Newport High School if it hadn't been for Stan McKee.
He's a great guy.
He is a great guy, and he was always supportive, and we helped each other. I helped him seriously in his junior high football and junior high basketball, and he helped me in senior high basketball. And he's really a good man and a good coach, and no telling how many junior high football games and basketball games Stan won.
Mm-hmm. David, do we need to take a break? We'll take a little break here. You're watching Remember When with Coach Bill Osier. This is fun. We're off to a good start. We've got a lot to talk about. I think you're going to enjoy hearing a lot of the stories and things that we have on the agenda. We'll be right back.
Jackson's Funeral Home and the Jackson family have been serving our friends and neighbors in Jackson County during some of the most difficult times of their lives for nearly 60 years. As the third generation of this family to own and operate Jackson's Funeral Homes, Jan, Rhett, and Jerry consider it the highest honor to be chosen to care for you and your family during times of need. We believe the highest standard of care is achieved when people are given the tools needed to make the most informed decision for the benefit of their family. For us, there's no greater honor than to care for our friends and our neighbors in their time of need. The Jackson's Funeral Homes, the 1900 block of Malcolm Avenue in Newport, phone number 870-523-5822.
We're visiting with a longtime educator and coach, Bill Osier, on Remember When, and we've got a lot of good things to get to, so let's just get at it, all right? Folks wanted you to be a football player, or you love playing baseball also, and so basketball, we're shooting hoops with the Quaker Oats. We're kicking the pet milk can around, kicking field goals. Sounds like a pretty interesting athletic career getting started.
To say I came from humble beginnings might be a little bit of an understatement, but I had wonderful parents, and you know, they were always supportive. Two sisters that took care of me, an older sister who was my second mama, drove me everywhere, my younger sister who helped me pass English when I was in high school, and got a wonderful wife now, Sharon, and 3 kids that Kurt, Jack, and Jennifer that have always been supportive.
They put up with you all this time.
I told my wife, I said, I just really don't understand why you're still here.
Yeah, I tell mine the same thing.
And they asked us, you know, we've been married like 46 years, and
Jane and I had 44, so you know.
You're getting there.
Yeah.
But here's the secret to staying married that long. For about the first 30 years, I was gone all the time.
Not around.
And so that's why Sharon Kay was able to
A
tolerate
coach's
it.
life.
But she has been very supportive of me, has not complained one time. It takes a special person to be a coach's wife and a coach's kid, for that matter.
Bill Keaty told me one time, and I think he was absolutely right, and he said the toughest thing, he said, is Jennifer having to sit in the stands. And when things aren't going exactly well, listen to a few of the naysayers,
Yes.
you know, and to keep her mouth shut. He said that's the hardest thing a coach's wife, you know, can do. And it's real difficult because there are trying times, and we've all been through them in any stage of life, when you just, you know, you want to say something, you want to say, and then if you just let it pass and go on, things all seem to work out and come around, you know, and it just, but I feel for those ladies who have to do that, you know.
Yeah, right. I have a story about that too, Bud.
Let's hear it.
If I could relate it to you. I wanted Sharon Kay to keep book for me on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
We needed a bookkeeper, and graciously she did that. We were in a game over here at Newport. I think we were playing Truman, and the coach was Mike Dungan from Truman, one of my good friends. I've always respected Mike, and we've gotten along real good together. And he was, Mr. Mullins was wanting to get the 3 games that we were having going pretty good, so he wanted us to do a 10-minute warm-up between games like you do in a tournament. Mike wanted 15. And he came over and he was talking to me, you know, and Sharon Kay was there by me keeping the scorebook, and she got into it with Mike. You know, Sharon Kay is a classy lady. She's, that's the best way to describe her.
Okay.
And she proceeded to tell Mike, if you want to ask for 15 minutes, you go ask Mr. Mullins. So I said, well, I don't know.
Put him into the lines, then, didn't you?
I said, well, I might have to fire you from your scorekeeping job. She didn't keep score anymore, but that was an interesting tidbit on wives, and I know she put up with a lot. I know she did, and I always appreciate that very much.
Well, like I say, coaches' wives, you know, they need to take a bunch of psychology courses before they can marry somebody that wants to coach, because it is absolutely tough. But there are so many thrills and benefits and wonderful, you know, things about coaching. Let's get back to high school before we get into the coaching. You met Paul Massey.
Yes.
Changed your life.
It did.
You know, and then Bill Holt is here. And Donald Ray Smotherman is here, and Mike Allen is here, and Ronnie Stites is here, and Freddie Sexton is here. All the guys that, you know, were important parts and makeups of what became our best basketball team ever, the 1965 Greyhounds.
I might put that together real in a condensed version. Paul loved basketball, and he was a good shooter. I think Coach Duke discovered him in PE class in the 7th grade, one of his classes, and we started playing basketball together all the time. We'd shoot baskets. We'd go out on the court on Wednesdays across from the junior high where the old tennis courts are, and I think it's the science building now. And we'd shoot in 100-degree weather a long time and play 2-on-2 or whatever. Then when the ball game started over at the Legion field, we'd walk over there and get a Coke at the concession stand, watch a little bit of the Legion baseball game, go back over on the court and start playing ball again. When we got enough of it, we'd walk all the way across town. He lived on the east end of Holden, and I lived on North State, and that's how we would spend one of our days. Then Bill Holt came along. In junior high, we had a good basketball team. I think we drove all the way to Harrison to play a junior high game. Same guys we beat in the finals. They beat us in junior high. And then Coach Heineman took us to Benton to a tournament. So we had played a lot of ball, and Bill Holt couldn't play a lick. He could barely run a line drill, a sprint. But Coach Heineman kept him on the team, and he told us one time that by the time he's a junior, he'll be on the starting lineup in Newport. Don Heineman said that.
Okay.
And sure enough, he was. He went to the camp, North Carolina. Donald Ray Smotherman was always a good player. He's a good ball handler. He was a point guard. Mike Allen was one of the better all-around athletes to come through Newport.
And it had not been for injuries, he may have been the best to ever play at Newport, all sports.
Super quick. He had a really nice shot. And Ronnie Stites was a good all-around athlete. The other boys on the tournament team that we had that year were Philip Sexton, Freddie Sweat, Bobby Blanchard, Jimmy Holt was the 10th grader. And I think that's 10. I believe you could only carry 10 at that time to the tournaments. But we had...
I think so, yeah.
But we had other good players as well, you know. We had...
I said Freddie Sexton a while ago. I meant Freddie Sweat,
yeah.
Philip Sexton, yeah.
Philip was a good jumper. And and then we just kind of evolved into a group that played together. And in the 10th grade, we played on the B team, kind of earned our keep. And then in the 11th grade, we started playing. And that's when it looked like we had a chance of being a pretty good team one of these days when we were juniors.
Okay.
Troy Johnston, you remember Troy?
Yes.
He was the fifth guy. There were 4 juniors that started my junior year, and Troy was the shooter. He was the 5th guy, and then when we became seniors, Mike took his place.
Yeah, what a team. What a team. And as juniors, relate this story to me. We had a pretty good ball club. It wasn't a great team,
Right.
but it was above average. And we get to the district tournament, and we get what we think is a really good draw.
Best draw in the tournament. Stuttgart. Stuttgart has a record of 0-18.
They hadn't won a game.
Not a single game.
Lost 18 in a row.
Yes.
And we're going to kill them, of course.
Okay, and all we had to do, I forget what the team was that we had to play next, but if we beat the team that we played after Stuttgart, we were going to the state tournament.
Yeah, that's a big deal in Newport.
You bet. Newport hadn't been to the state in a while. And we go down there, and Stuttgart proceeds to beat us. They had a point guard by the name of Max Peacock, who later played wide receiver, I think, for the Razorbacks. He more or less held the ball out front and drew fouls and shot free throws, and we got beat. And you talking about some
The
young men.
0-18 Ricebirds beat the Greyhounds, who were pretty good basketball, above 500 basketball
Well,
team.
to let you know what kind of team we had, we beat the state runner-up that year. That was the Conway Wampus Cats. We beat them at Conway. And then we lose to a team that hadn't won a game all year in the district tournament. So we were down.
So we could see moments of this brilliance that was about to occur less than 12 months later.
Yes.
But then also we could revert to where we didn't want to be. But I guess, you know, I don't think we had a big head.
No, but we were overconfident.
But I think that, you know, if they played that style and held the ball. Now, remember back then you could hold the ball.
Yes.
I mean, there wasn't any shot clock.
And we just didn't do any good. We had to foul. He was a good enough athlete. He was the only player they had, really. And it was just anything that could go wrong did go wrong. But, you know, the summer after that is the thing that made us, I thought. We went to a basketball camp in North Carolina for 8 weeks. Bill Holt had gone to that camp the previous 2 years, and that's how he started developing. Vernon Rogers, who was a good player at Harding University, knew about that camp, and he put us on to it. And we spent 8 weeks of playing nothing but basketball, and it was against some of the best players around. You remember Neil Walk that played for the Phoenix Suns? Neil was there. He was about 6'8" or 9" and weighed about 150 pounds. And
don't turn sideways,
right.
They disappear.
And I mean, that was the caliber of boys that we played against all summer. And by the time we got back from North Carolina, we weren't really shocked by anybody we played. No one was going to overwhelm us like that. We were ready, and that helped us a lot.
All right, I want to spend some time on that specific season because it was just a beautiful thing, and just people remember it. And let's get started. We go to school. School starts. You guys been working together all summer. You know, you're feeling pretty good about one another. You know, you're saying, you know, we just lost an 0-18 team our last ball game. Let's put that behind us and let's move on. And the start of the year, here we go. Tell us about it.
Well, we couldn't wait. We went down and played the Wind Yellow Jackets on the road the first game. I remember that. And we blew them out. And then it was just, we just started winning. We got to the NEA tournament, which is over the Christmas holidays, still undefeated. And we got up against the Mariana Trojans. And they had a pretty good team. Again, another player that had that point guard that could hold the ball out front. And they beat us 62-60, and a record for fouls being called was set in that game.
Referee was one of the referees, Mr. Polly Black.
And a friend of Coach Berners Duke.
Right, and no relation to me.
Right.
So, you know, but tell us about the record that was set in that game.
I forget how many free throws were shot, but it was, and the call of fouls was in the 30s. That's how many fouls were actually called. And
they shot more free throws than anybody ever.
They shot free throws and more than ever at that time than
Yeah.
anybody. And of course we got beat 62-60. Then we played. After that, we kept playing. We were rolling. Beat Paragould at Newport, and we were rated, I think, 7th in the state at that time, and they were rated 5th in the whole state.
Paragould had some players.
They had Big Manuel Washington. He was in a class all his own.
Great player.
He would get 35 against us no matter what.
And before Manuel, Gary Washington.
Gary was a very good all-around player. Played at Mississippi State, I believe, did he? And I still talk to Gary when I see him. We became pretty good buddies when we coached against each other when he was at Paragould. And we beat them at home, and we were rolling. And then Leachville comes into Newport. And that's ultimately the team we're going to beat in the finals of the district tournament. But they actually beat us fair and square. Never was any doubt. That
was the only game we legitimately lost all year.
From the field, they shot 79%. That's almost unheard of.
And we had an off night shooting it.
We had an off night. Well,
Yeah.
we shot 59%.
Yeah, right.
And you get beat 5 points and
You
shoot
say,
59%.
You walk away and shake hands.
They beat us.
Great job.
And then the other game we lost that year, we won more games, was at Paragould.
And that game, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what, is probably the most interesting, the most exciting, the most frustrated game in high school I ever watched, ever sat through. I had played in the junior high game, and we won on the last second shot that old big boy made.
Yep.
And we beat them, I think, 32-29 in junior high. And so they didn't like that.
No, they were good in junior high at that time.
They didn't like that at all. And here come the seniors out to play. We lose 51-49.
Yes.
And describe the last minute there, if
Okay.
you would, and what you remember.
They had
about
led
it.
us the whole game.
Yes.
Paul Massey, on his patented driving layups, drove the baseline, scored, and tied it up at 49 with like 5 seconds to go. No timeouts were called. They threw the ball in quickly, and all I remember, there was we kind of moved around in front of them. I didn't see any contact of any kind. Someone may have put their hand out like that. Buzzer goes off, and I said, man, we caught them. Overtime. And we got over in our huddle, and Coach Duke was giving us our instructions as to how we were going to play. And the referee goes over and pulls a guy out of their huddle and tell him he's got a 1-and-1 while we're getting ready. They were getting ready for overtime.
Free throws.
Yeah. He hits them both, and the game's over. So I was very discouraged. I hadn't played good. I knew I hadn't. I felt like I kind of let the team down. So I stuck my head down and just went to the dressing room. Game's over.
Oh, you missed the fun.
And I was in that sink, getting that water out of your hand. And back then, then I got me another drink. No one was coming in the dressing room. I said, wait a minute. This is going to be embarrassing if I go back out there and the game's still going.
Yeah, where are you, Osier?
And I walked out the door, and there was a sea of humanity out on the basketball court.
Oh, and it was a bad mood of humanity.
Coach Duke was pacing up and down with his with his fist clenched.
Mr. Dean Hook, the most calm, reserved man.
A gentleman's
gentleman.
Yes.
Had his jacket off, and he was looking for action.
and Coach Pennell, who I have a high respect for, was a coach at Paragould at that time. And I remember him following Coach Duke, and he said, Duke, said, I didn't make the call, Luke. Said, it wasn't my fault. I didn't know what was going on.
Oh. And it was the worst call in the history of high school basketball.
Yeah, people were pulling people back and restraining them, and finally they turned the lights out, didn't they, buddy?
Yes, to try to get people to leave, and they wouldn't leave.
Yeah.
It took a while after that. I mean, you know, police everywhere. It just.
I'd never seen Coach Burness Duke that agitated either.
Well, if ever there was a team that got robbed, it was that night.
Yeah.
And of course, Paragould and Tech had a real good reputation of doing whatever it took to win every game at home. Let's put it that way.
It was very difficult to win at their place. That's why the game that we talked about earlier, when Paul Massey dribbled the clock out up at Greene County, that was very unusual to beat them on with the caliber of team that they had at that time.
But that night at Paragould, my goodness gracious, and you know, from there on, I mean, we got mad. From there on, we got mad. Get out of our way.
That was our last defeat.
Yeah.
And we kept playing, and there's a story too that is interesting. Coach Duke knew a lot of the Little Rock coaches. You know that there were Central, Hall, North Little Rock. He played AAU ball with Jimmy Culp that coached at North Little Rock. And so I'm not sure the coach at Hall, was it Hook?
I don't remember.
I'm not sure of the coach in it, but Coach Duke was a good friend. So Hall that year had an open date, and they wanted a tune-up before they played Little Rock Central, and that was usually for the championship. So they scheduled us on a Tuesday night for a tune-up, and we beat them 20 points.
Bad mistake for Hall. Yeah.
And we kind of relished that. And I think our last game of the regular season was West Memphis, and we beat them pretty good. And then the district tournament at Leachville.
We'll talk about that coming right up after we take this break. You're watching Remember When, and we're visiting and having a great time with Coach Bill Osier. Visiting with Coach Bill Osier on Remember When here on Cable 15 TV. Glad to have you along. And we're talking about the great magic year of 1965 when the Newport Greyhounds won the state championship in basketball at Barton Coliseum. To get to Barton Coliseum, you got to get into the district, get into the Final Four, I believe, or whatever. And, that's a done deal for us. We're on this hot streak. You know, we're going to Leachville to play. It's snowing outside. You know, I mean, it's wintertime.
Yes.
And man, we're all excited. We're going to go over there, and we've already beaten Paragould and Leachville and Greene County Tech and Batesville. We've clobbered all these people. We draw Batesville in the first round.
They had won 5 games all year.
Yeah, 5 games all year. And this is going to be the easiest. Man, we play our B team and just sneak through this one. And folks, we came yay close to not even making it to the state tournament.
We did, and I look back on that and think about how much that would have changed.
Everybody's life.
The lives
the community.
Totally changed, yeah. And the situation back then was the south half, it was divided, our district that we were in was divided into a north half and a south half. The north half teams were much better than the south half. So the south half teams might come in there with a good record and not be as good as our 5th place team.
Sure.
So Batesville was a case in point. They were seated real low, and they played like a 2nd or 3rd place team from the south half and beat them 25 points. And we knew they had given us trouble, and they led us until about the last 3 minutes of the first game. And we caught them, put it away with free throws, and that put us in the state tournament.
64-60.
Yes,
final score.
That is correct. Right on.
And I'm telling you what, all the Greyhound fans from the second half in were just eating their fingernails, you know. We're saying this can't happen to us, you know.
Right.
And we rallied and then went on and through the district, won the district tournament.
Yes, we did.
At Leachville against Leachville.
Yeah, we beat Greene County Tech in the semifinals and on the buzzer shot. and we beat, I think, Big Bill Hope. Mike Allen fed him from the wing, and he made a shot with like 4 seconds left and beat Greene County Tech for the 3rd time by 2 points.
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
Right.
We beat them 2, 2, and 2.
Right.
And then we played Leachville in the finals and beat them 59-50.
Yeah, and after they had beaten us at Newport, you know,
Yeah,
so
yes.
returned the
Good
favor
team.
in a much more important game,
Yes.
you know, the district championship game. And then it's on to Little Rock, and we're all wide-eyed and bushy-tailed because, you know, we're going to Barton Coliseum, 8,000 people. And we say, what in the world? You know, man, we've never done anything like this. A little scary, a little frightening. And in the first game, we draw an afternoon ball game. They played in afternoons and nights.
Yes.
You know, because there was different tournaments going on. I think we were AA. They had the AAA tournament going on at the same time. I remember Jonesboro and Fort Smith Northside, you know, playing in that.
Right.
And Clovis Sweeney, and Almer Lee, was it?
Big Bobby Vent from North
Yeah,
Little Rock.
yeah. Oh, what a tournament.
Yeah.
We draw Mountain Home in the first round. And lo and behold, we get school dismissed, and everybody goes to the game that afternoon at at Barton Coliseum. And here we go.
We drew Mountain Home, who was mainly a junior team, 11th graders. They had Big Vernie Harris, a guard that was really good named Danny Keeter. And they were a pretty good team. They were a 4th place team out of their league, but in their league was Valley Springs, Harrison, and teams like that. So they jump out on us about 19-6.
Looked like a football game.
Yeah, they were hot and it looked tough. We didn't press that year. Very little did we press. But Coach Duke thought that we might need to speed the pace of the game up a little bit because they had found a rhythm. So he put us into a full court zone press with about 4 minutes to go in the half, and we caught them at halftime after being down 11 or 12 points. And then the second half, Big Bill Holt decides he's going to take over, and he ends up, what did he score, 33?
Mm-hmm. And a dunk.
And a dunk. And of course, you know how athletes are, they kid each other a little bit. And you didn't see many dunks in state tournaments back then.
No, it just didn't happen.
And he put the icing on the cake with a dunk right down the middle of the court. And we used to kid him and we said, now you took 3 steps on that dunk, didn't you? And the referee was so enthralled with the dunk that he didn't see
call it.
No, of course he didn't, but
I have never seen fans explode. You know, I mean, we'd never seen one before, high school dunk.
Yeah.
And there it was live right in front of us. And I mean, just everybody you never heard such a roar, you know. It just, but anyway, that was some impetus. And then you're going to play Mablevale.
that is now McClellan.
Little Rock McClellan.
Yeah. They had a good team. They had beaten, I forget who upset Camden Fairview the game before that. And we played them, and all I remember is that they opened up in a man-to-man. And our eyes started getting big, and we knew it was going to be our night because we had a team of guys that like to drive.
You bet.
And take the ball to the basket. And we proceeded to cut their defense up pretty good. Had them down about 20 points at one time. And
if they shrunk back and got in the zone, we had an old boy out in the corner that could shoot it, you know.
Well, when he was on a streak.
Yeah, well, I've seen him on many streaks.
That backboardless board that he used.
The little Quaker Oats came in handy.
But that was a tough game. And then our old nemesis, Greene County Tech.
Yeah, and we beat them 3 times by 2.
And you just don't beat a team like that.
You just got to say it's their turn.
Yes.
You know?
And sure enough, they come out. What are we down, 11 or 12?
Yeah.
They were hot, and
we're thinking what a great year it's been.
Yeah. And we just kept plugging. Caught them probably about the beginning of the third quarter. Ended up blowing them out this time. I think we beat them 7. 62 to 55.
It was a blowout.
And I knew that game was over when we got our 5 or 6 point lead and spread it out. And they were tall and lanky, and they weren't going to get the ball from Massey and Smotherman. They weren't going to take it from them. And we put them away, and then that set the stage for the finals.
What did it feel like, Bill? First, going to play Greene County Tech for the 4th time, and then afterwards, when you realized we're playing for a state championship.
It was. It would have been easier. It felt better as a player. If I'd have been a coach, or if I'd have been a fan, I would have been more nervous. But being a player, you just say, man, we've gotten this far, and I'm excited about it, and you were just ready to go. I looked at it that way, and but the atmosphere, it was just like you were taking in that atmosphere. At that time, you didn't have big crowds for basketball games in Arkansas. And being able to go down there in front of a packed house and play for the state championship was like you were in a dream. You know, when you get to think about it.
It is a dream sequence when I look back at it.
And the townspeople were so supportive, and parents, people from other communities around Newport went down there to see that game. And at that time, that was the largest crowd to see a high school, to see any kind of basketball game in the history of Arkansas, college or otherwise. Because up at the university, they played in the old barn, as it was called.
The real barn.
It was a barn. And it was just something that's unforgettable. And I've always said that that was a community effort. You really didn't want to lose because you just felt like you had so much support behind you.
Yeah.
And it was a neat experience. You know, you talk about Coach Duncan, you know Butch Duncan, and I have high regards for him. He was a very calming force on that team. He was a good man to use tactics to make adjustments during the course of the game. He was kind of like Stan McKee was to me when I coached.
Yes.
He could observe and he could make adjustments, and he complimented Coach Duke so much. But Coach Duncan was a heck of a coach.
You're going to play Harrison. They're undefeated. You got to be thinking, can we beat these guys? Nobody else can. They throw that press out there, and it just eats everybody alive. You know, I mean, after you played Tech, I mean, you're thinking, you know, well, I know we're going to play, but do we really have a legitimate chance, or were we confident? Do you remember?
Yeah, we worried about the press because everybody talked about it. It was in the news, on the newspaper. I think one article in the paper was Harrison Press destroys Paragould.
Yeah, it's the most famous thing in sports in Arkansas, the Harrison Press.
And we walked through something in the gym that day before we left to go back to Little Rock.
As I understand, Butch's idea.
You betcha. He said, why don't we put Big Holt in the middle at about between the half court and the top of the key. And let's let Massey and Smotherman get the ball in, and we'll put Osier and we'll put Allen at half court. And when Holt gets the ball in the middle, we cut Osier and we cut Allen to the basket. And if I remember correct, I think we got them out of that press.
Ran them right out of it.
Yeah, and I don't think we turned the ball over, but one or two times the whole game.
And they were befuddled.
Right. They had never seen a big guy like that, and that's just some things that Coach Duncan, you know, did a little strategic
on Saturday morning before we played that night.
Yeah, Saturday afternoon, the only time we worked on it, we just pulled our shoes off, went out on the gym, and went over that, and then put our shoes back on, got in the car, and headed to Little Rock.
The offense that was put together to beat the great Harrison Press was put together on a moment's notice, on a whim, on an idea from Butch Duncan, and we did it. We weren't even practicing it. We weren't dressed out.
Yeah.
You know, in our socks. Yeah. We go out on the floor at Newport.
Right. He had got that idea when he was actually an assistant coach at Arkansas College under Coach Winningham. He was like a graduate assistant, or whatever you call it today, and that's where he had come up, you know, with that from his college coaching.
And what a night it was. Mike Allen hit that first jump shot. We go up 2-0. We chase them out of the press.
Yes.
And we win it 67-49. You talk about a blowout. 18 points, which like today is 40 points.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a fabulous win, and what an absolute night! What a stunning night! I still see everybody on the floor, with all the people, all the congratulations, all the you know, and we had some great honors, and you get named to the All-State team.
I was fortunate enough to do that, and we had a team. I know we had 3 All-Staters that year, but you look at everybody on that team, excuse me, had a specific thing they did well.
Mm-hmm.
You had Mike Allen, who was a streak shooter. If he got in the groove,
Look out! Yeah.
get in the ball.
Yeah.
You got Donald Ray Smotherman, who could handle the ball against anybody.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't particularly fast, but he was clever, and he took care of the basketball. Point guard you got to have.
Mm-hmm.
You had Paul Massey, who was the best all-around player on the team.
Drive that basket.
You could have put Paul at any position, and he would have done well.
Mm-hmm.
You had Big Bill Holt, the best big man in the state, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had a blue-collar guy like me.
Best shooter from the corner in the state.
That I knew what shots I could make and what shots I didn't, and I felt like I need to go get rebounds. And
yeah, go
get
to the
after
board
people.
too. I started to say, you know.
And we had a little bit of everything on that team, and that's basically why we mixed together so well.
Boy, it was an incredible memory, an incredible accomplishment. The Newport Greyhounds, the 1965 state champions. Golly gee, I get goosebumps still
amazing.
thinking about it, you know.
You know, Buddy, too, I might interject this as a side note. That was exciting, winning the game and everything, but one of the things that was more exciting to me is when we got interviewed on the radio after the game. You know who did the play-by-play for the Arkansas Radio Network? Bob Chain, the voice of the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Yeah.
And I was over there, and he was asking me and Paul and Bill Holt a question on an interview. And I said, man, I'm here getting interviewed by the voice of the Razorbacks that I had listened to with my dad on the farm in Overcup, Arkansas, on a battery radio.
You know, and Bob Chain got out of that, went into real estate business, made, you know, gillions of dollars. But I always thought he was the best of all the, you know, everybody talks about, well, Bud Kell. They started hiring TV guys who were excellent at giving a sportscast, but weren't worth 2 cents doing play-by-play.
But Bob Chain had that gravelly voice.
You bet, you know.
It was a Razorback voice. You just...
his great call of Kenny Hatfield's touchdown, there's the alley, there's the alley, you know. You know, I talked to Kenny Hatfield about that when he was here a couple of years ago for sports, for the Farm Bureau, what am I trying to say, the Chamber of Commerce banquet. And we talked about that call and that particular play, and just, I love listening to Bob Chain.
That was one of my most memorable moments, was when Bob Chain interviewed me on the radio.
And not winning. Hey, we're Bob Chain. You know, and then you get to go play college basketball.
Yeah, Coach Winningham at Arkansas College was good enough to give me a scholarship, and I played there 4 years for the Arkansas College Scotties.
And he was such an easy coach to play for.
Coach Winningham was, I always said that Coach Duke was a unique individual. Coach Winningham was a unique, old school, he made Bobby Knight look like a Boy Scout. We had drills that you wouldn't believe. He always felt like that we were not in shape. He didn't choose his politically correct language when he was admonishing us a little bit. But
good old Christian boys like you and I, we say, what?
But after Coach Winningham stepped back across that black line, away from practice and away from the game, was a guy that loved his players and would do anything in the world for them.
Great.
And I've always respected Coach Winningham for providing me with that education and teaching me how to take discipline. I had boot camp when I was in college.
Good.
So, I played 4 years there. And to sum things up on my career, I went to Tuckerman and coached 3 years up there with Coach George Snellgrove when we had the Person boys. And
and we broadcast a lot of those games.
That was that was one of my favorite
Fun.
places ever to be. It was just fun.
It was just fun. And George was a unique individual.
He was.
And had a heck of a basketball team for a couple of years there with Raymond Bailey and Person Boys and Mike Dacus. And just,
it was a
good
period.
bunch.
That was a period, buddy, in Arkansas basketball that it's one of the best periods as far as players. That was along about the time, you know, that Moncrief and Delph and Brewer and guys like that were coming through.
Right.
And a lot of good talent all over the state.
And when basketball really caught on at the university, then it helped all the high schools
It did.
too. You know,
The quality got better and better. I spent 4 years there, 3 years as a junior high coach and assistant senior high coach. Then I left there and went 1 year to South Arkansas, to a place called Portland, right between Hamburg and Lake Village. And I encountered some good basketball down there. Excuse me. We had a nice team, co-conference champions, and we played Vaster, if you'll remember those teams. Lake Village, Hamburg, teams like that.
Deep southeast Arkansas, yeah.
Hermitage. But we didn't like it down there socially. We didn't have any friends. If we went to the doctor, we had to go to Greenville, Mississippi.
Across the river. Yeah.
And it was just tough for us. So what I did, I said, well, we need to make a move. So I sent out a bunch of letters applying for a job. It didn't have to be a coaching job. We just need to make a move, you know. And Mr. Mullins replied. I sent one to Newport, and he said, Billy, if you're serious about this, come see me the next time you come home.
Let's hold it right there, because I want to take a quick break, and then I want to talk about getting this Newport career started. But when Mr. Mullins sends you a letter, you listen.
I do.
All right, we'll be right back.
Jackson's Funeral Home and the Jackson family have been serving our friends and neighbors in Jackson County during some of the most difficult times of their lives for nearly 60 years. As the third generation of this family to own and operate Jackson's Funeral Homes, Jan, Rhett, and Jerry consider it the highest honor to be chosen to care for you and your family during times of need. We believe the highest standard of care is achieved when people are given the tools needed to make the most informed decision for the benefit of their family. For us, there's no greater honor than to care for our friends and our neighbors in their time of need. The Jackson's Funeral Homes, the 1900 block of Malcolm Avenue in Newport, phone number 870-523-5822.
Visiting with Coach Bill Osier here on Remember When. We both got frogs in our throats, so forgive us, you know, but we're having a great time talking about these great memories. Mr. Mullins gives you a call. You sent out letters. You say, I'm in Portland, Arkansas. I've enjoyed it, but it's just not where we need to be. Yeah. And so I'm just looking for another position.
Right.
And he says, if you're serious,
come and see me when you come in the next time.
Okay.
So I called Mr. Mullins next time I came in, and I was hired as a civics teacher. A lot of people think, you know, when you go back and coach where you graduated from, a lot of people use that as their lifetime goal. You know, I played there, I did good, I want to go back there. I came back to Newport by, you don't call it accident, by divine providence, I think is what it was. Anyway, I was hired as a civics teacher. Had 6 civics classes that I taught. Glad to be home. That summer, I taught summer school, make a little extra money. And Mr. Wiggins comes up one day at lunch during summer school and said, you want to coach a little football? I said, well, never have. He said, well, Coach Bannister is the lead. Dwayne Bannister is leaving. Yeah. And Coach Stan McKee is going to be the football coach, and he needs some help.
And you can learn how to do this.
And I did it. And I took that job. And Coach Danny Gilbert was my teacher.
Danny just recently
passed. He recently passed away, and I had high respect for Coach Gilbert. We went out when the seniors started practicing, and he told me to follow him and shadow him. And I learned a lot of football on line play from Coach Gilbert. And he was a gentleman. Good man. And then, right before football season was over, Bubba Parnell was a senior high basketball coach.
Mm-hmm.
He said, would you like to help me out in senior high basketball? I said, well, I guess. So I did, and I was his assistant.
So I've been to Tuckerman, I've been down to Portland.
Right.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I could use a little basketball. And then after 3 years of working with Bubba, and we had some awful good teams then. We had Willie Pruitt playing, and guys like, I don't want to mention a whole lot of names, but everybody knows Willie was a good one.
It was the start of a real good run. And y'all started, and then you continued.
Right. And then Bubba decided to become a principal at the elementary school, and I really didn't know what was going on.
Okay.
So I went over, I said, well, I need to find out where they're going to put me. And I went over to Mr. Mullins, and I said, Mr. Mullins, I'm just here to see how I'm going to be considered, this next year. He said, well, Billy, you're going to be the new head basketball coach. And I said, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And that's how I became coach.
Isn't that great? That's a great story.
And,
Not, would you like to be? Billy, you're going to be.
You're going to be the next coach. So
yes, sir. You told me. Mr. Mullins told you what you're going to do. You did it.
That's another gentleman that I had high regards for.
Unbelievable. I mean, people that were around Mr. Mullins, spent any time around him, just absolutely honor the man.
You didn't always like what he told you, but you respected what he told you, and he treated everybody the same.
Right.
From the lowest paid person on the scale to the PhD holders. He treated you with respect.
He stopped me in the hall one day. I must have been about the 11th grade. He said, Black? Yes, sir. What are you going to do with your life? I said, I think I want to be a radio announcer. He said, Black, that's a good decision.
that was Mr. Mullins.
Thank you, sir.
He was that type of person.
Anyway, you're the coach. He said, you're the coach.
Yep.
And looky here.
And that's
how. Man, we have some good basketball teams.
We did. And we had some wonderful guys to work with, the players and all. And like I say, I don't want to get into names and mentioning people. But
we're going to mention Charles.
Well, Charles, you can mention Charles Ballantyne because no one else attained that level.
Right.
He got paid to play.
Yeah.
For 2 years. And when you do that, you're in a class all your own. But Charles was an excellent player.
Might have been a better football player eventually than he was basketball
player. Well, he was
player.
Kickoff man.
Yeah.
He could kick it in the end zone just about.
Tall enough to be a nice end, and just
till someone sucker blocked him or whatever and broke his collarbone, and he decided he might go with basketball.
Yeah.
But he was still a good tight end in junior high school. He was a good player, and I had a lot of good teams. A lot of people don't realize it, but basketball, there's been a drought in there on basketball. In 1953, Newport won the district championship. That's a year after John Miner and J.C. McMahon and all those guys. Right. They won it in 52.
Okay.
And in 1953, Everett Bolton, I think, was the coach in 53.
All right. They
didn't win another basketball district championship until 1965, which I was fortunate to be a part of. And they won the only state championship we've ever won in 65, and I was fortunate to be a part of that.
Right.
Then we went to the state tournament in 78. We got runner-up in the district. Then we won district championships in 1979, 1981, 1983, and 1984.
Yeah, great run.
Hadn't won any since then.
Yeah, great run.
And I got to thinking back, I'm fortunate to be around, to be here during that run, to be a part of all of those things that happened at that time, and I've always appreciated the players that actually put up with me during those times.
Well, I don't think they had to put up with you. I mean, because you were a great teacher.
I was a taskmaster. A lot of people don't remember that.
Yeah.
But
well, that came naturally. I think Coach Winningham at AC. And you learned that you could be successful and learned your discipline. And
but I did.
Obviously, whatever you were doing, Bill, what worked.
Yeah. Well, it had good athletes. That's the main thing. When you have good athletes, and you know,
we got us a new field house too, by the way, in that run.
Got us a new field house. Played the district tournament there in '81, and that was probably the biggest crowd we've ever had at Newport. The finals of the district tournament. Charles Ballantyne was a senior. There was a rumor that Eddie Sutton was going to be there. Greene County Tech girls, Greene County Tech boys, and Batesville's girls. And you know they follow their team.
Oh.
And then our boys were in the final.
And Batesville's in the midst of one of those runs with their girls where, you know, just year after year after year.
And we ran, I guess, how many people through that gate? 2,800?
Yeah, I was thinking it was over 3,000.
It's the fullest I've ever seen that gym.
Yeah, it's SRO, standing room, real standing room only, you know, almost out on the court.
Right. And I do remember that part of it, but there was something about that old gym, though, that brings back a lot of memories.
Oh, yeah. I still, every time I go in there, I can hear the noise. I can hear the basketballs bouncing. I can hear the crowd. I can smell the popcorn that the Churchman boys are cooking upstairs.
Right up in the corner.
Oh, golly gee.
You had to go around and check in. You had to circle the court and check in the northwest corner because they kept the clock and the book up there.
Freeman and I used to broadcast from upstairs in that little corner over there. Where you could overlook the court and still, my goodness gracious, you know.
And the Paragould game, we had to put chairs in when they played there. We put a bunch of folding chairs in to accommodate the crowd at that time at the old gym. And, you know, just things like that. You can even go in a gym like that and smell it.
Yeah.
You know you're in a basketball gym when you got that smell in there.
So I can imagine what it does to you. You walk in the old gymnasium, you know, so many memories. You folks that haven't ever done that, didn't grow up here, I know you saying, well, what are y'all talking about? But the folks that did grow up here and were part of that, you know, certainly know exactly
Wish
what
my
we're talking
grandkids,
about.
buddy, could grow up in the atmosphere we grew up here in Newport.
Right. It was different times, different world. You know, you and I, before we started, were thinking, you know, next March will be the 50th anniversary of all we're talking about here, the state championship, 1965. That can't be 50 years, Bill.
It just doesn't seem like it. At time, I've always been told by the old timers, when you get older, time passes quicker.
It just zooms by, doesn't it?
It really does. It's amazing how quick, and I tell you, it's a world out there now that is so much different than it was 50 years ago.
Yeah, it's a more difficult place.
Yeah, it's. I wish my kids and grandkids could have grown up in that age of innocence that we grew up in.
Right.
And you were a little more carefree back then, I think, as a youth than you are now.
Yeah, I can remember the most heinous, terrible thing that, you know, we ever did as kids, and that was somebody get a pack of Marlboros, and we try to smoke one.
My first dip of day's work happened in Overcup, and I turned real pale around the mouth, and I felt a little woozy, and haven't had a chew since.
That did it. No, thank you. Sir, I appreciate you taking the time to come by and visit with us. Tell folks what you're doing these days.
Well, right now I'm retired, and I am a gopher, and that simply means that someone needs something done in the family, I take care of it. And
nice to have a position of responsibility.
I don't.
In this day and age, it is.
I don't hunt. I don't fish. I don't gamble. I got a nice wife, so I don't have to worry about running around. And I've got really. The only thing I do for a hobby, I go to ball games. I go to the state tournament when they have it. I go to Hot Springs when they have the overall. Every once in a while I'll go to a Razorback or Indian game. Try to go to as many games here at Newport as I can. And I've got a granddaughter that's that's playing volleyball at Batesville, and of course I go to her volleyball games. And it's kind of ironic. I've got one granddaughter that plays ball at Batesville, and the other one's a Turkman Bulldog. So that's unusual.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much what I do right now.
Well, congratulations on a fabulous career. Congratulations on everything that you have done for our young people in Tuckerman and in Newport, and not only coaching basketball but teaching civics. And I promise you that you've had a goodly number of kids learn how to play basketball, but you helped a lot more kids in that civics class.
I appreciate that.
You know, and that's the most important thing. And I know a lot of them, hundreds, maybe thousands over the years, have come through your civics classes. And if you hadn't done a great job, you know, they would have been less people for it. But
you see a lot more people in those civics classes than you do out on the field or on the
absolutely. But
I want to say one more thing about you, buddy. In my opinion, you're the best when it comes to play-by-play.
I appreciate that,
There's no doubt about it. And I want everybody to know that the most amazing broadcasting feat in my coaching career is we were playing for the district conference championship at Nettleton one night, and Buddy didn't have a hookup inside the gym. He broadcast the ball game from a payphone in the lobby, looking around people into the end of the court, and didn't miss a beat. That was the finest job of broadcasting I believe I've ever been around.
Roy King hit a 40-footer.
Yes, and I want to thank you for having me on, and I wish you the best of luck.
Our pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
Coach Bill Osier, one of the best, and when you think about quality and you look it up in the dictionary, Bill Osier's name will be right out there. He's done wonderful things for our kids in Jackson County, and you, like I, should appreciate him, and I know many, many of us do. Coach Bill Osier on Remember When. Thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate it. You can watch the programming. We have a lot of stuff available for you on Facebook, on our website at cable15tv.com, and on YouTube. David and Ben and Will have been doing a great job of getting everything put together and having all the different media available to you. And it's our pleasure to expand our programming and make it available to so many folks. We have folks now that can watch us on the website or these other things that might be in Carolina, they might be in California, they might be in Istanbul that can see it, and we appreciate that. Thanks for watching. I'm Bud Black.